I'm Allie Cartwright, and this is Q and Allie. You've got questions, and I've got insight. And this week, we're talking about what to do when you just can't. I'm talking about when you reach that point in burnout where you hit a wall and you just feel like saying screw everything and sabotaging your whole life. And this is not something I experience a whole lot anymore because I've got such really good habits in place with daily meditation and energy cleansing and all of that. But I do have general anxiety disorder. I do have clinical depression. So sometimes I fall into this pit of burnout. And it's really, really important when you hit that spot to find a way to approach it healthily so that you can not live there quite as long. And just, because it feels better, everything goes easier when you learn how to address it within yourself. So one of the most important things to remember is you can release things on your to-do list. Some things can wait. They really can. But we tend to tell ourselves stories, really dramatic stories about why it's so important we do all the things and beat ourselves up for all the things that we're not doing. I mean, even when we're not in burnout, like really extreme burnout, I think a lot of people live in burnout pretty much all the time, but we tell ourselves so many little things about how cataclysmic events can be if we don't get our stuff done. And it's almost never that bad. So when you reach this really screw it point of burnout, the absolute best thing you can do for yourself is take a moment with yourself, with your breath, to slow down so that you can really look at the stories you're telling yourself, the to-do list that you're freaking out about, and figure out what can truly wait. And I guarantee you there are things that can wait. I mean, to put it in perspective, pretend for a moment, if you need to, that your child just came in with a broken arm and you have to go to the hospital and deal with that. Well, obviously you're not going to be getting a whole bunch of other stuff on your to-do list done, and that's okay because your child's broken arm takes priority. So remind yourself of that a lot of things are not that urgent, even if they do feel really urgent. Now, this can get tricky though, because a sink full of dishes is obviously not a life and death matter, and it can wait. But if dirty dishes really gross you out and it's gonna stress you out super bad every time you see those dishes in the sink, then maybe that's not the best thing to leave for later, because it doesn't take super long, and if you're gonna feel that much better having it done, maybe that would be a really good use of time. Or maybe you could ask someone else to help you. We are a communal animal. We need our relationships. We need our pack, as it were, to help us in life. So there is a wonderful, wonderful benefit to asking for help, in that you receive help and the other person gets to feel helpful. And that's huge for them and it's huge for you. So it really is a win-win. Even if that person doesn't super want to do it, that can even actually make it better for them sometimes because they feel like so like, oh man, I'm really helping them doing this thing. Another thing is that you actually tend to have an easier time dealing with the really, really important stuff that absolutely can't wait when you're having massive anxiety and burnout, because that sense of urgency really sort of melds in with anxiety well, which is funny because the things that aren't seemingly as important and can wait tend to, at least in me, I've really noticed, and several of my clients have remarked on this too, that they feel extra icky because I think it's because we resist the idea of putting them aside. But it's okay. It really is. And if you can mindfully recognize that this can be set aside and approach that release with joy, it's so good. Oh, it feels so good. It's almost like treating yourself to a special dessert or something when you go, oh yeah, I really don't need to sweep today. It feels really good to tell myself, I don't need to sweep today. Whatever. So this week in our meditation moment, we are utilizing the lotus flower. And this amazing plant digs its roots down really deep into the muckiest muck that it can find, and it pulls that muck up through its roots and transmutes it into beautiful, life-giving sustenance, and allows that to be cleansed and beautiful, because lotus flowers are absolutely gorgeous. So this week, what we're going to do is a sensory perception meditation in which you imagine that you plant a seed at the crown of your head, a lotus seed, and the roots begin to grow down, and you just visualize them, feel them growing down through your entire body, seeking out the muckiest, most stagnant energy that you possess. And they're gonna go all through, and those roots are gonna start pulling that muck, all that mucky energy up into them, and the roots are going to process all that muck into beautiful sustenance, in this case for you, learning and growth. And then when the lotus flower grows up from your head and blooms, it releases all of that excess energy that you've processed and allows you to blossom. Not only is going through this sensory perception really relaxing, but it truly does help to transmute old, stuck energy that you don't even know what it is anymore. You don't need to know in order to release it. You just have to be willing to let it process and let yourself be open to any lessons, learning, and growth that it wants to provide. With our mindful moment this week, we are, like I talked about before, we're really taking the time to be honest with ourselves about what truly can be released and what truly needs to get done. And allowing ourselves to be okay with releasing items. You know, we tell ourselves so many stories, and it's really amazing how much relief you can find when you allow yourself to really look at these stories and get super honest with yourself about whether this is just a story you are telling or if it's actually happening. A lot of times I feel like when we get super anxious and burnt out, we start telling ourselves a ton of stories about what could be what we're afraid might happen because we're in this stressed out place. So when you shine a light on that, when you lovingly allow yourself to look at it without beating yourself up, it's such a beautiful thing. And that brings us to our mantra moment for this week. In this moment, I rest. In this moment, I rest. Even when we tell ourselves that we're allowed to rest on the surface and we say, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to relax, it can be really hard to release the overwhelm that we're feeling. And so an affirmation like this really helps to cut out the noise over, it's like turning the volume down on all that noise and turning the volume up on the mantra, allowing it to just soothe you and helps sort of calm down all of that nervous, anxious energy so that you can breathe and look at things with a bit healthier perspective. Okay, well, that is this week's episode. I hope that you have so much relief using these techniques when you are feeling really burnt out. And as always, I hope that you live fully, laugh lots, and love yourself. Again, I'm Allie Cartwright, and this has been Q and Allie.